Welcome back to the Marianne Hickman Show. Listen, I'm excited that you're here because today's episode is all about how to develop the self. We've called it personal development for some time, and that phrase has honestly just become white noise. If you've been in the personal development space long enough, we kind of don't think about it. But here's the thing. Personal development or developing yourself, it's like a shower. You can't just take one and be clean for the rest of your life. We need constant, never-ending improvement. So this episode is designed to do just that. And when you turn on this episode, I want you to just be looking for one thing, just one thing as a takeaway that you can do better to make you a self-sustaining person, to make you a stronger person. Maybe it's a solution that you've been praying for and you've been looking for, and this podcast has the answer. Also, if someone sent this podcast to you, just think about it. It's because they care about you. It's because they're sharing in a journey with you. Maybe you're listening to it together, or maybe you're in a partnership, or maybe you're in a business partnership and you're sharing ideas and you're growing together. If you have someone like that in your life, just say a prayer of gratitude right now that you have people that you can grow with, that people you can be safe making mistakes around. This episode, Anmol, he talks about some really cool principles, some really cool steps. In fact, he sent me a journal that he has, his personal success journal. It's upstairs. I have it right now. And I highly recommend this personal success journal because it's got daily steps, this constant nurturing, this constant watering of who we are meant to be. And if you're new to the Marianne Hickman Show, and this is maybe your first episode, welcome. Welcome to the family. Welcome to this community. Welcome to the group of people that want to become better individuals and speak on stage to help grow more better individuals. Thank you for listening. Check it out. Tell me more about what you do, because listen, the self-help, you and I both know that self-help is proliferated. I think, like we were kind of talking about before we turned the camera on, COVID really did a number on us, and I don't want to get all political or anything, but I think it revealed a lot of the inner dialogue of our minds and how our actions show up. And talk about crisis, right? Your book is all about what to do in the event of crisis. That's a crisis everyone can relate to. And we all had our takeaways from it for left, right, better, or worse. So when you talk about mindset and you talk about self-help, how do you avoid just becoming part of the white noise of everyone talking about this?
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because a lot of people that I've seen are stuck in what I call the learning loop, where they get the fake dopamine hit of attending these retreats and personal development. They feel really good for about a week. And then they go back and their life goes back to normal. And you typically, I call them seminar junkies. They're at every little event, they're at every seminar, just kind of learning and learning because it gives us the fall dopamine hit. And I think COVID was one of those periods that really brought to the forefront like your real self, right? Because before COVID, you like me probably know a lot of people who said, you know what, I want to start my business. I want to start this side hustle. I just don't have the time. I'm so busy with my job. And then in 2020, they had all the time in the world to do what they actually wanted to do or start that thing. And how many of them actually did? Not a lot. So that shows the real self of what you say you want versus what your actions show. So my book, what I try to do is I bridge the gap between just being all spiritual and personal development. But now, okay, we're in the physical world. How do we take action? How do we move forward towards our goals? And I think it was a great wake-up call for a lot of people, including myself too. For me, it was in the area of health. It was like how I didn't really take care of myself. I was just focusing on traveling, living the business dream, the money dream. And it brought to my forefront, at least, the lack of integrity, as I say, in that area of my life. And I see that with all the other people. Like so many people said, I want to do this, just have the time. I'll start this podcast. I'll start this. And not many people took action. And I think that's a big wake up call for a lot of people. And that goes back to one of the keys in my book where I talk about integrity. Is do what you said you're going to do and do it when you said you're going to do it. And do it whether you feel like it or not, but do it because it's the right thing to do. And I think that is kind of how I live my life by, is like making sure I really pay attention to the words that are coming out of my mouth, and I make sure I really mean it. Otherwise, not saying it, because you're putting it out in the universe. And if you don't act on it, it's going to come back around and you're going to repeat the cycle over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's this false yes. When I hear you say this false dopamine hit, that's immediately what I think of. We've given ourselves these false yeses, right? I'm going to get healthier. I'm going to write the book. And now I have time and opportunity and all of my excuses are gone and I didn't do it. And now I can't trust myself. I have no integrity with myself. I didn't even do what I said I was going to do for me. Right. So when I wanted to check in on this point, and when you were chatting, it kind of just was chewing at my brain. This concept of, you've achieved a level of success, and then you tie that in with this concept of integrity, right? When you talk about where you've come and success looks like, it reminds me of that Jim Carrey quote. I don't know if you've heard this one, where he's like, I hope everyone achieves the financial status they've always dreamed about so that they can learn that that's not really what it's all about.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I don't know if you've heard that one, but that one chews on my brain. Tell me about your credentials, because I'm going to listen to someone who has achieved success and then tells me that's not what it's about, more than I'm going to listen to someone who has never achieved it and tells me that's not what it's about, right? Tell me, where does this all come from?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up? Marianne Hickman here. Listen, I'm interrupting my own show because I want to give you something. Now, you guys all want to get on more stages. I've got a free resource for you of stages that are just clamoring for guests. They need guests on a daily, weekly, sometimes monthly basis. This is my podcast database. Now, what I'm going to do is have you go to mariannehickman.com/database. Once you put in your information there, I'm going to send this to you totally for free. Open up this database. You're going to click through it, find the next podcast that's relevant to your topic, hit the application button, show up on their podcast, get in front of their people, and share your content. Remember, mariannehickman.com/database. Let's get you unlocked.
I think for me, I had the same moment, and not even that long ago, a few years ago. I think in 2019, I made the most money that I ever made. I was still in my 20s and made a lot of money back then. And that was kind of the dream. You look to other people, you look up to them, and you're like, I want to have that too. I want to have that car. I want to have this penthouse. And, I got everything, right? I moved into the exact condo that was on my vision board, right? Overlooking, the New York City, a Statue of Liberty, and I got there, and the feeling lasted, about a month, right? I was super happy on top of the world, really feeling grateful about everything, and then I was like, okay, what's next? And then I go and buy, the cliche thing, buy a car, post a picture on Instagram, look at me, right? And
But
you
you
do
don't
all
even
of
need a
that.
New York.
No, you don't. I Uber literally everywhere, right? Where are you gonna park? But I had it just, because that's what I was coached or trained. Like, growing up, society tells you this is what you gotta have, and then you get it, and then I realized, like, what is really true success? If I'm financially successful, but if my health is a mess, is that really success, right? And the answer was no. And then I was like, okay, what if I, meet my health goals, I make a lot of money, but my relationships are a mess. I can't even get along with people. Is that really success? So then I discovered that, okay, definition of success for me has evolved and changed over time. And the way I define it now is you being okay personally with where you're at in each of those areas, not comparing it to anybody else's success or what society tells you to do. But when you're sitting by yourself at night, are you feeling good about where you are in each of those areas? Health, wealth, love, happiness, right? What do you feel about that truly? And I think that is what I define success. If you can sit with yourself and feel like, what, I've done a good job, I feel good with where I'm at, or at least I'm making progress, that is what I consider success. So the fulfillment is in the journey, not achieving something, because there is no destination. You'll achieve it, and then you'll like, okay, what's next? And it never ends. It's a never-ending cycle. So yeah, I think but I always tell people, get there, get the success first, as Jim Carrey was saying, to figure out, okay, that's not where it lies. And then it's like the onions. You keep peeling off the layers. Okay, I got the financial success. Okay, I'm still not really feeling fulfilled. You keep peeling the layers, and it'll usually come back to yourself, to the center, how you feel about yourself truly. So I think that's kind of the perspective that I come with.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but when I was in my financial climb, and I was like, oh, I got this number off the vision board. Yes. And then they got the next big number off. Yes. And I started having these proof of concept for the success. And for me, it was very similar. I got the house that I wanted, custom designed. I didn't buy the McLaren that I wanted because I couldn't bring myself to like spend $5,000 on a car. I had it, but I didn't want to. I couldn't, the frugal part of my childhood came back. But I had all of these things. And there was this moment where, like you're talking about, I was laying down in bed. And I was thinking about these check boxes, right, of all that I had achieved. And I have to say, I had an amazing marriage. I still do. It's always getting better, but I had an amazing marriage. I had the home that I wanted. I had the finances what I wanted. But I saw this cost of winning, as that book says, and the biggest price that I was paying, and it hurts my heart to even say it and admit that I did this, but I sacrificed relationships with friends, and I sacrificed relationships with my children, right? And not to the point of neglect, but
to not even to the point where I was missing any of their games or their musicals or their recitals. I wasn't doing that, but the relationship wasn't as full as it could be because I was dedicating any extra minutes to how could I pursue more of this financial acumen and more of this financial winning. And here was the reason. I was afraid that if I stopped pursuing that, the financial acumen, the big numbers in the checking account and all that, I was afraid if I stopped pursuing that, that it would go away. And I was like, okay, I'll have a great relationships with my kids, but my animal brain is like, yeah, but you'll be living in a box under a bridge if you stop working. And that's not providing for them either. So this mind meld and this mess of if I give up on this thing that I've created, it'll go away and I'll have a great relationship with my kids, but I still want both. Like I want it all. I want to have everything. Like, do you ever run into that, or do you coach people through that crisis? Did you have that crisis?
Yeah, I think, usually that happens when we are trying to achieve something that we deep down know that it's not going to bring us. Like we kind of, if you sit with ourselves, you kind of already know that if you imagine the ideal life that you would want, it would include relationships, it would include community, it would include the time with them. But our mind convinces us that, okay, let's get this first, let's get this first. And that will always create anxiety and it will never always leave you feeling unfulfilled. And the reason we do that is because like you want to spend time with your family, but then there's like a fear of what if that goes away? And that fear always is our unconscious telling us to get back to what you really want. It's a signal to tell us, okay, this is what you're chasing. The reason you're fearful is because there's something else you want, and you're trying to compensate by achieving this first because you think that this will give me the love or give me the connection that I want. So I think once you distinguish that, I think that makes it a lot easier. And then you figure out a why. Okay, great. You want the money, you great want all of this. What's the why behind that? Is it to spend time with your family or is it just to buy more things? And I think when you tie that why with which includes other people, then you don't have the anxiety because then you're working towards something rather than moving away from something. Like I don't want this in my life, so I'm moving away from that rather than okay, what am I working towards? Where am I actually going? And I think that solves a lot of these issues, but it's about getting clarity with yourself. And I think it's a phase of life that we all go through and we still will keep going through. It'll show up in other ways. If it's not the car, it'll be something else. The things will keep showing up until you realize what you really want. And I think that's a hard process because with that, it takes time to sit with yourself, and which a lot of people don't. Even when they're sitting by themselves, they have the phone in the hand, they're scrolling the internet, they're looking at, Instagram or TikTok or maybe just always being involved in, okay, what do I have to post now for my business? So it's always like about doing. And we never actually sit and be and say, okay, what do I really want? If I had a magic wand and my life turned out exactly as I would want it, how would you describe it? So like I'm very vivid with it. I have a whole document that I've written my old biography, what people would say after I leave the earth. Like I've written it down because I try to live consciously of what I'm trying to create. I think that is a pretty involved process, but if people get clarity on themselves, why you want that, and it's also okay to want it. Like if you want the cars, you want the house, it's okay to want it. If it's coming from a place of love, if it's coming from the place of I want it because of this, right? Or to provide for other people rather than you doing it to look good or, to avoid looking bad in front of people, or you just want to, you want to be perceived a certain way. And perception of other people are never going to give you the fulfillment that you're looking for inside.
It will temporarily fill a bucket that just gets bigger every time.
Yeah.
I have seen that happen so often. It's this keeping up with the Joneses thing because everyone gives me, and we get this hit from it, don't we? We get this like praise and, oh, that's such a cool car. I drove this really beautiful car that was lent to me. It was a BMW IA convertible, beautiful, beautiful car. The lease was about up on it, and I was generously offered just the chance to drive it around. And yeah, I got that dopamine hit every time I turned ahead while I was on the road. When I picked my daughter up from school, and her kids thought she was so cool, and I was like, "Yeah, this is rad!" Right? But it's that was it. It stopped there.
Yeah.
And I had to keep driving the car in order to keep getting that feeling. And I'm with you. I'm not going to say that there's anything wrong with having a beautiful car. I've driven it. I've had that fun. There's just like there's nothing wrong with having a Picasso in your house or a beautiful painting. I see that as a piece of art, a manifestation of human creativity. It's fine. You're right that the inward needs to be, this is an expression of my fulfillment rather than seeking your fulfillment.
Exactly. 100%. You're doing it because you want it and you like it, right? For yourself. But if it's like, I think other people would really like that if they visit my house and they see this art, then that's a different energy than, hey, I love this art, I love this artist, I love his work, I'm gonna buy it. Very different energy than I would love other people to see it. So I think that is kind of the energy you go by with any material thing you buy, whether it be designing your house, whether it be buying a car. Design it because you want it, right? I like this.
Yeah.
This is what I really want. This is, what I love, but not for the validation that I might get if other people comment on that. Is again, go back to the same false dopamine hit. You'll enjoy it, but you'll notice like you might hear it first 5 times and you might love it. And then the 15th, 20th time, your mind will somehow convince you, are they just saying it to say it, or do they really mean it? And then those dopamine hits will slowly start waning off.
Mm.
And a few years from later, you're not even going to enjoy your own art or your own car because you're seeking that validation. And the more people say it, you'll start to doubt their intention on why they're saying it. So it'll never bring you the long-term fulfillment.
Yeah, that's a great litmus test. What happens 5 years from now? Do you still look at that painting and be like, oh, this is so inspiring? Do I still get inspired by that painting? Or am I switching it out because I'm starting to not really enjoy the compliments or not get the compliments as much? That's an impressive thought of why do we do things? Am I doing it because I'm inspired? That's that push-pull energy you talked about. I'm being pulled toward it. That's inspiration. Being pushed toward it is that temporary motivation for that temporary hit that wears off eventually. When you talked about redefining success, does this play a part into that? This push-pull energy of inward impression versus outward? Tell me about your definition.
Yeah, so my definition of success, as I said, is creating harmony in all areas of your life, health, wealth, love, and happiness. And then you personally being okay with where you're at. Like if you honestly ask yourself the question, am I really happy with where I'm at with my health? And if you're gonna honestly say, you know what, yeah, or I'm making progress, I'm on the right path, that's success, right? But if you can be like honestly and say, not really, I should be doing this more, then you've not truly successful because you're not acting on what your intention or your unconscious already knows the right thing to do is. So when you are acting on your word and what your desires are, because I think about it this way, like, you like me probably know a lot of people who launch a new business and you're like, oh, I had that idea, right? A few years ago. I had that idea before he
Yep.
did,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But the way I look at it is in a spiritual sense is like everybody's getting the same exact ideas. The universe, God, whatever you believe in, is giving the same downloads to everybody. Everybody gets the exact same downloads. It's just that some grab on it and they act on it, and then some don't, right? So when you start acting on those little unconscious thoughts and realizing that, hey, it's not you making stuff up, it's been fed to you because your unconscious is trying to get you to your purpose. So if you look at it from that perspective, then things change, whether you believe it or not, right? Whether you believe it or not, it's just that if you start acting on those voices that you get, hey, I need to be doing this, I should be doing this, or this relationship's not really working out for me, or I'm not really fully fulfilled. Start noticing those words. The more you can act on your inner voice, the more fulfilled and successful you're going to be.
So your definition of success is being able to wake up, see your results, and say, yeah, I'm proud of this.
Yeah, I'm proud of this, or I'm proud of the progress that I made. I think that's the definition, and harmony in all areas, right? So not balance, because you're never going to achieve full balance ever. Like, if you look at your heart rate on an EKG monitor, it's going to be ups and downs. That's just how life is. It's never going to be flat. Otherwise, you're going to be dead.
Oh, that's a beautiful visual. If you didn't hear that, guys, go back and rewind and listen to that again. Like the ups and downs, flatlined is dead.
Yeah. So you got to be learning to enjoy that roller coaster and realize that with the downs come the ups and vice versa. So when you're up on the high, don't, expect to be complacent. Like things are going to reverse, but you being okay with that, riding the roller coaster and knowing that that's just part of life. It's never going to be a smooth uphill battle, right? So kind of like a video game, you press the next level of the video game, it gets tougher. So if life's getting tougher, then that means you're progressing to another level. So stretching yourself out of the comfort zone, but creating harmony, not balance. Harmony is like sometimes if I'm with my family, last month we were in Vietnam, Cambodia, took my whole family there.
Really?
Yeah. So when
I
I'm with
love
my family,
that part of the world.
I'm not going to try to balance my work and my family life, right? When I'm traveling with them, it's 100% family. But when I'm at work, it's 100% work. So sometimes it's 100-0. It's never going to be 50-50. But you notice that whenever you're spending time with somebody or your goals, make sure that gets the full attention. So not like you're spending time with your family or your kids, but you're on your phone also doing work. Now you're doing, most things at 50% level. But when I'm at work, 100% work. When I'm with my family, 100% family. So like realize that there's going to be that harmony and don't try to create balance because you're unconsciously admitting to yourself that things are unbalanced. I need to balance it. That's already a negative mindset to come from.
Yeah. And suddenly
sometimes we will get this. I'm sure you get this as a working parent as well. When I'm, I do a lot of work from home. I'm very blessed to be able to do that. And then I'm in the middle of my 100% in the zone, in the groove with work. And then the knock comes at the door. And oh my gosh, it sometimes the mom guilt, maybe you have it as the dad guilt, is like, my kid wants to show me this thing, but I'm in my lane and I want to be present, but I never want to tell my kids no. Like this push and this pull and this tug. How do you cope with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's much better to have the open communication and like letting whoever's in your family, letting them know, hey, this time I'm going to be working, or this is the time I'm going to be the work goals, and, that I'm all at work. But then when you're with them, you need to make sure that you value that time so that when you're with them, they know that you're with them. So it shouldn't be like, let's say, I don't know, if your kids are asking you a question, you're like kind of busy on the phone, like you're not fully there. You're like, oh yeah, just give me 5 minutes. Now you're kind of putting it in their mind that they're not valued in a certain way. So I think you just set boundaries, and it starts with open communication that this time to this time, I'm at work. There's this thing hanging outside the door, it's work time, right? But when that thing is not in the door, feel free to walk in and feel free to interact. So I think that sort of boundaries that you set, because then they know what to expect. So when you don't acknowledge them, they already know he had, made it clear he's going to be working. But when you're with them, then you got to make sure that you're 100% with them.
I saw this Instagram reel that said it's podcast interview. I think it was with Tony Robbins, but I can't remember. So Tony, if I incorrectly ascribe this to you, I apologize. But the host said the number one biggest mistake you can make with your kids is let them see you on your phone. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I was like, okay, I don't know if I can do that 100% of the time, because I might be like texting family and my kids are in the room. That's a really hard line. It's like a black and white boundary. But I think we all know when we're distracted from our kids by something on our phone that we shouldn't be.
Right.
That's my takeaway from that is just, and I think I could do a better job of that. I know I could do a better job of that because I'm going after these little dopamine hits of respond to the text messages and this launches. But you're right. I'm happiest when I cut off my work time at whatever it is, 3 o'clock or 2:30 or 5 p.m. And I put this sucker away and I'm with them. Or maybe this is in my pocket. I'm like, oh, I want to show you this funny thing on Instagram. And we're doing whatever it is that we're doing, but together.
Right.
So you talk about in your book, the action steps. And man, I love that principle when you give someone something to do at the end of each chapter. But I know that we can spin our wheels in actions and activity. If our mindset's not locked in, then the activity, first of all, if it happens, it might be contaminated with the negative mindset. But most often the activity never happens and it just gets, put on a shelf collecting dust with everything else that we've put aside. So talk to me about the correlation between mindset and action.
Yeah, action is everything because we are still in the physical world. You could be spiritual all you want, manifest all of this, but if you never actually do anything, then it's not going to work. So if you even go back to the Hindu traditions, people, the way they think about karma is like what goes around comes around, but that's not really what it means. What it means is like you keep doing the right actions, whether you feel like it or not, and then whatever your destiny is going to show up if you keep doing the action. And if the result is meant for you, it'll show up in your life. If it's not meant for you, that's a signal that that's not what you wanted. So the key is like what I call the learning loop in my book, which a lot of people I know are stuck in the learning loop, which is they read one book, then instantly they go pick up another book. They listen to one podcast and they go instantly to another podcast. They buy one online course, one mastermind, to one event, and they just keep doing this because, again, the false dopamine hit. But that's why my book in every chapter ends with, okay, before you move on to the next chapter, here's the 3 things you got to do before you can move on. Because what I don't want is you finish the book and you say, great, I've read I've read this book. I've read, people brag about it too. I read 20 books this year, or I've listened to this. And I'm like, but your life doesn't demonstrate you taking action on any of what you read. Right? Everybody claims I've read Think and Grow Rich. I'm like, in the chapter, he talks about having a board of advisors, having a mastermind group, having people you could bounce ideas off of. Who's in your board of advisors? They're like, oh, I didn't execute on that. So you haven't read the book, right? Then you haven't read the book. So a lot of people do this. They just keep listening because, again, they feed that, okay, it feels that false impression that I'm making progress, but you're really not. I'd rather you read one book 10 times and then apply it rather than reading 100 books and then not executing on any of that, because your life is a good barometer for the action that you've taken. So, a lot of people are very knowledgeable. They say, I have a lot of knowledge, but true knowledge is applied knowledge. Otherwise, it's just organized information that you're hoarding on, right? And your life's not going to improve by just hoarding more information. It's going to be by action. So that's why every chapter is like 3 things you got to do. So every time I read a book, I read it like I read one chapter and then I close the book and I sit down with myself and, okay, what did I actually learn here? And how does this apply to my life? Like, how can I actually make it a concrete part of my life rather than just, oh, yeah, this was a great book. I had great information. I'm inspired. But no, how do I apply it now? Right. And then at the night, I write down every night, here are the 6 things that I need to do when I wake up in the morning. So when I wake
Mm.
up, I don't care about the text messages coming in. I don't care about the emails coming in. My only job is when I wake up, I got to knock those 6 things down. Now, if I get those 6 things down by 12 p.m., guess what? I have all the time in the world to spend with my family, with my friends, guilt-free, do whatever I want, play golf. But sometimes it might take me until 10 p.m. to get those 6 things done. In that case, I'm there and I'm working. But if I keep knocking those 6 things down, not only am I making progress, measurable progress in my day every single day, but I'm moving closer to my goal 6 things at a time. So I think that's kind of the practice that I have every night is reflecting. But a lot of people do it the opposite. They wake up and then they're like, gee, what do I do today? What's on my task list? You already missed the day. You already missed the day. So you planned it the night before. So when you wake up with absolute clarity on what you need to be doing.
This is a funny rule that you say. You mentioned that 6 things. I also have that rule. I don't know where I got it. I
Yeah.
don't even remember. What is it about the six task lists per day, 6 items per day? Did you create that? Did I get it from you in a roundabout way before we met?
I don't know, sure. I mean, I would just say anything. Like pick 3, pick 5. Like numbers really irrelevant. The concept really is to just have something planned out, whether it be 5. Some people call it, 5 power 5 list. Some people call it the critical 6. Some people call it 3 tasks, important tasks. Like numbers, the basic foundation of the strategy is just to plan your night the day before, and then assign all of those 6 things a time slot on the calendar.
Hmm.
So then it's not about a hope of when it's going to get done. You already know, like I already know when I'm going to get those 6 things done because it's all scheduled out. From 9 to 10, I'm going to do this, 10 to 11, I'm going to do this, 11 to 12, this, 12 to 1, workout, kind of planning the day out. And I got that from I think Jordan Peterson, who talked about like
Yeah.
envision what your ideal day looks like, right? What are the things that you would do in your ideal day that if you did those will make you feel really good about yourself? Now that you've written those things down, great, assign all of them a time slot. Then you're going to live your ideal day. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how I live by my life by as well. I want to have that ideal day, and the way to make it happen is schedule it. Things that get scheduled get done. Things that don't get scheduled, life will find other ways to fill your time.
Amen. Amen to that. That's why I put time with my kids on the calendar.
Mm. Yeah.
I put gym time on the calendar. We put date night on the calendar. And to be frank, I already know which ones I need to put on the calendar that I'm not doing. I think we
Yeah.
all do. I think that we all actually know what we should be doing, but we don't do it. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got the action steps. Every single person in this country knows how to be healthy and eat vegetables and be fit. We all know that we go to the gym and we put proper nutrition in our bodies, that we're going to be a healthy person. We're not going to be overweight. We're not going to do all these things. And yet we know the action step, but then
Mm.
our mind gets in our way. We have this cognitive dissonance between what we know we should do and what we actually end up doing. How do you tackle that in your book?
Yeah, I mean, I had the same exact issue, like 2020, it was COVID. I made the most money I ever made, 2019, 2020. And I was just like, living the business dream. Let me buy a Ferrari. I bought that, got the penthouse, and I'm traveling like London, Dubai, spending 3 months here, 6 months there, did all of that, but it completely ruined my health. I gained a lot of weight, was not eating healthy, was going out almost every night. And I realized that it all goes back to lack of integrity, right? Because I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to start working out from Monday. And then Monday comes and it's like the 28th of the month. So you're like, I'm just gonna do it from the first, right? And then the first comes in, and then it's like November 1st. So let's just wait till January 1st. We're gonna start fresh, right? And
Yeah.
I did that for like a whole 2 years. I did that from 2020 to 2022. And I sat with myself. I'm like, wow, that is a lack of integrity. The same stuff that I talk about, that's a lack of integrity between what I say I want, but my actions are actually showing what I really want, right? And then the key with that is it's a cycle. So when you say you're going to do something and you don't act on it, then it goes into low self-confidence. Then that low self-confidence turns into low self-esteem. And then your unconscious mind convinces us anytime you say something in the future that you want to do, your mind's already saying, you're not going to do it, right? You said that many times before. So the cycle keeps repeating itself over and over. And that's why we keep sabotaging ourselves between what we say we want, but what our actions are showing, because somewhere we've broken our word to ourselves. And now our unconscious mind will always keep bring that back into fruition. It's going to prove yourself to be right every single time. So the key is to break that cycle. And the way you break that cycle is being very conscious with the words that come out of your mouth. Make sure you really mean what you say. Otherwise, don't say it. Don't give it the voice, because words are vibrations. Whatever you put out into existence, it's now a reality. So if you don't do it, the universe is going to keep showing you that. So I think, going back to that point, is like, you got to do what you said you're going to do. You got to do it when you said you're going to do it. And if you don't do it, which is going to happen to everybody, don't apologize for it and say, you know what, I'm not going to do it again, because you will do it again. You will repeat the actions over and over until you break the cycle. So the question you got to ask yourself is, what am I putting in place to ensure this doesn't happen again? So for example, I gave you about my workout. I wasn't working out. I wasn't doing any of that. And I still don't like working out. I'll be honest, right? I don't like it. But I was like, it's got to get done. So what am I going to put in place to ensure that I get that workout done? And I know if I left to my own devices, I'm going to come up with something not to do that. So then I got a trainer. He shows up the same time every single day, and he's going to show up to my house and we're going to work out. He shows up now. I have to work out. I can't be like, oh, go home, right? So I put things in place to force that on me to make sure that gets done, because otherwise there's going to time, fill it up. So, and, also people might a lot of times say, but I have integrity. I do what I said I was going to do. I'm like, really? When is the last time somebody called you and you said, hey, I'm just in the middle of something, let me call you back, and you never did? Or you ran into an old friend at an airport or a shopping mall, you're like, hey, good to see you, we should totally catch up again.
Oh, that
And then
drives me crazy.
and you make no attempts to ever catch up with them. So there's a disconnect between what you say you want and what you're actually doing. And a lot of that is because we're trying to be polite, we're trying to look good in front of other people, we just don't want to seem like we're rude. But the biggest, I guess, the biggest mistake I guess we make is not following through on your word. So I'm very conscious in what I say. If I don't mean it, I'm just not going to say it, right? But if I do say it, then I make sure I really mean it, because a word is everything. Going back to spirituality, Bible, your words are everything, right? Before anything, there was a word. So I think that's kind of how I live by the vibrations that your words create.
I like that you said that. I've done that too. It's like the classic high school. I'm going to sign in your year, like, hey, let's keep in touch this summer, and nobody has the intention to. A friend of mine gave me a ChatGPT prompt, and this prompt was designed to reveal our own blind spots and our own flaws and all of that stuff. And I was like, oh, I have to do this. I feel like I don't want to, but I have to do this. Tell me, ChatGPT, I've been using it for a year. Tell me why my blind spots are. So I had it interview me and all these questions, and it came back with something that didn't surprise me. It bothered me, but it didn't surprise me. And this element, like you said, of people pleaser came up, because I feel it and I hate it when I go in there and I'm like, I'm doing things for other people. I'm doing things to make people feel a certain way, or most often to avoid conflict. I will people please to avoid conflict. And ChatGPT pointed out this to me, and I was like, damn it. and this element of, like you said, I'm doing it to please other people. It's kind of manipulative. If you think about it, you're trying to influence someone else's thoughts and someone else's emotions, whether it's buying the painting or buying the car, or it's being people pleasing, or it's not honoring your own actions or your own inspiration. Is there any time it's not people pleaser?
I mean, there are times, but majority of the time it is to do with that. Is we're trying to look good in front of other people. We want to be perceived a certain way, so we don't want to show what we really mean. So we put on a mask or put on a version of ourselves which we think they might like this, right? And we all do that to a certain extent. We all wear masks in our daily lives. We're different with our family than we are with our friends, and vice versa. So it's just the key is like noticing that, because what happens unconsciously is like we might think, well, that was. I mean, it's not lack of integrity. I just said, we'll make a plan. Like, it's not like that serious. We convince ourselves, but the unconscious doesn't know that. So unconscious mind, eventually down the line, when you say you want to do something, unconscious mind already like, you're not going to do it. You're just saying things, right? And then that cycle repeats over and over. Because if you don't believe in your own word, how do you expect your clients to believe in you? How do you expect the universe to believe in you if you don't believe in your own word? So the key is to honor your word, and you'll see how your life drastically changes, because then you start owning up to that confidence of, and people then respect you a lot more, because then when they know that if I say something, I'm going to follow through. Otherwise, I'm never going to say it, or I'm going to be openly honest with them, and then they know where to stand. then there's no manipulation. And then people know that they can rely on my word. That's why my clients and everybody, they know that, okay, when I said it's going to do something, it's going to be followed through, and they don't have to ask me again. And that's what I try to do even with my team. When a certain task is given over to them, there's deadlines associated to that, and if they can't meet it, they got to be communicating to me before that deadline even reaches that, hey,
Yes.
couldn't meet it at this deadline. Here's a new date when I can get it done by. And then I expect them to get it done rather than on the due date, they let me know, oh, sorry, it's going to take 2 more days. So it's like just building that environment of communication and not judging them for it. Being, as long as you communicate, we're okay. I think that's kind of the process I go by.
I like that you said that. My next thought was, how do you handle it when the second half of integrity? The first half is, as we agree, do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. The second half is what happens when you can't, and how do you fix it, and how do you stay in integrity when you can't do what you say you're going to do?
Yeah. So the first thing is, A, don't apologize because it doesn't mean anything, right? You're going to do it all over again. So the key is to, again, as soon as you notice that you're not going to be able to do something that you said you're going to do, communicating it right then and there. I know it's hard because we want to avoid conflict. And I've had that too. When I started my first business, my team was doing something wrong, but I just don't want any conflict. So let me just kind of, keep going by. But the key is as soon as you notice that, okay, I'm not going to be able to do this, don't wait. Don't delay it. I'll let them know next day, or I forgot to send the text to them. As soon as you notice it, doing it right then and there. Because now you've released that energy. Now you're not holding on to it. Because otherwise you're gonna go bed at night and you're gonna know I should have texted them back this, but you're delaying it. Maybe it'll come through. But I try to like communicate as soon as I notice that it's not gonna get done. Hey, I think I'm not gonna be able to get it done by this date. You know, reasons are relevant. Why? But the new date I'm going to get it done by is this, and you have my word on that. And once you do that, you'll notice that your team and everybody else around you respects you a lot more, and then they start following your lead. They start doing the same thing, right? I think that's how the culture is built, rather than leaving them high and dry, and on the due date you're like, oh, I will get you that video next week, right? Or for we need something for our for like Facebook ad or whatever, oh, I'll get it to you next Monday. You're moving the goal forward on your own timeline, forward on your own goals. So I think leading from the front, just basically, the old saying, like treat other people how you want to be treated, communicate with them how you want to be communicated to. And I think that's where everything changes.
Oh, that I love that. And I like that instant implementation of as soon as you know. It's not when you meet the deadline. It's as soon as you know you're not going to meet it.
Mm.
Be proactive and create that communication. And I find that my results are best when I do that.
Yeah.
And if I know my indicator is if it constantly gnaws on my brain, like you got to text this person, you got to text this person, you got to text this person, then I need to text them. I need to follow that inspiration. I need to follow that intuition. Okay. I want everyone to get access to your book. Walk me through, you said there are 5 steps in your book that go over and around and through success. Tell me what those are, and then let me know where we can get everyone the book. And we'll also put that link in the show notes.
Yeah, definitely. So there's 10 keys of success that I talk about in here. So a couple of them we already talked about, like integrity. That's a big one because that's the foundation of everything. Right. And the second one is actually taking action, which goes back to prioritizing, scheduling those things that are important to you, right? Writing, reflecting on your day. So have a journal. It's called the Success Journal, which is very simple, takes less than 3 minutes a day for people to fill out. So in the morning, I start my day with gratitude. And then I start my day with what are the things that if I did, I would consider success, successful day. And then
I
I
need to
end
write
the
that down.
day, yeah, and I end the day at night with like, okay, reflecting on the day. What could I have done better? What went well today? What do I need to do more of? And then just the critical 6 tasks that if I get done by the next morning, tomorrow can be a success. And that's basically it. Now you got a pretty good foundation when you wake up on what you need to be doing. And also you're starting the day with some gratitude, which is again, whether you believe it or not, it's just like it's scientific at this point that it does affect our psychology and our brain chemistry by being in that grateful state. So those are some of the things. But then again, learning loop we talked about, life will only change if you take action. More information is not going to get you the result, right? More action is what you need. So I think those are some of the keys. But then we dive into a lot of the how do you learn properly? How do you develop your skills? And those 10 keys guide people, how they can achieve success. So to grab the book, people can just go to go.myname, anmol.net. And then, yeah, they can just cover shipping, and then wherever they are in the world, we're happy to send them a copy or the audiobook, and then they can listen to that, and it'll give them a good framework. I initially wrote this as notes to myself on things that I need to do in my own life to achieve the success. And I've I had the same issue. Like, my dad wasn't really present. He wasn't really there in my life. So I had to like self-learn a lot of these things. So I had to like hire mentors, coaches. I would pay billionaires. I would donate to their charity just so I can have a lunch with them, just so I can
Yep.
build some insights. And I did all of that. And I was like, but not everybody will have the money or the time that I spent to, get all these learnings. So I try to just put it down. Here's the 10 things that if I did in my life, I'll achieve the success. And I implemented all of that in 2019 and I got that success. And then that's when I was like, okay, this needs to be out in a book format for other people to benefit from.
Well, guys, I hope if you feel called, if this inspires you, if you like what Anmol is saying, I want you to go get that book. It's in the show notes. You'll find the link right there. Go get it. Go download a copy and do what Anmol said. Don't just like put it next to the other really cool books on your shelf so it looks fancy. And I'm with you. I would rather you read half of a book and implement that with full dedication and integrity than read 10 books. Maybe I have books that I have read the first 3 chapters of, and I live by those principles. I don't even know what's in the rest of the book, but I have used those first 3 chapters. I'm looking at one right now over and over and over again. So use it, leverage it. Those action steps, what Anmol has done is he's put action steps at the end of each book. Those are pages that you should photocopy and make a journal out for yourself. Do this. I'm a big, big fan. And this is why I love what you're saying, Anmol. I'm a huge fan of daily accountability, accountable to yourself. Find a friend that you can be accountable to. In fact, send this episode to them so that you can do this together. It's like having a gym buddy for your brain, someone that knocks on your door and says, hey, let's do this. And you're both showing up accountable to each other so that you can take that advance. And well, thank you so much for blessing the show with your presence today. And I say that very literally. There are people that are going to hear what you had to say, read your book. Maybe you'll meet them. Maybe you never will. But because you're here today, they're blessed. And that was extremely generous of you. So thank you so much for being here today. Where's the best place if people want to follow you and hang out with you? Should they find you on Instagram or socials or just download your book?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It was great chatting with you as well. But yeah, I'm most active on Instagram and X, and my username is same on both of those. It's Delta90, DELTA90NETY, spelled out. Don't ask me why. I had it long time ago, and I never changed it. It's too late to change it now.
Just take it.
Delta 90 is what we're going with now. Yeah.
I love it. Okay. I'm going to make sure that we're connected there as well. Anmol, again, thank you so much for being on the show today. And friends, thank you for being here on the Marianne Hickman Show. We'll see you next time. Hey, what's up? Marianne Hickman here. Hey, listen, I hope you enjoyed that episode. We have some pretty amazing speakers on my podcast and, of course, more to come. If this is something that you enjoyed, guys, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button. You guys know what to do. I love your comments and I respond to every single one of them personally, not a bot or an agency. So if this is something you're enjoying, tell me about it. Tell me your gold nuggets. I want to hear from you. But here's the most important thing I want you to laser in on. I told you about the podcast database. You've probably seen me post about it all over social media. I want to make sure that you get it. So here's what I want you to do. Go to mariannehickman.com/database. Once you put all of your information in there, I'm going to send you the document. You request access to it. Boom, it's unlocked. Once you're in there, my rule of thumb is to apply to 10 podcasts a month. It's very digestible. It's very easy to do. And the database gets updated twice a week. So I want you constantly checking back in there for the next podcast that fits your audience. Thank you for being here. Much love to you, and we'll see you in the next episode.